What's up, everybody? TJ here. Real quick before we get started with the episode, I'm testing out a new feature called Fan Mail, which is where you can actually text me from the episode that you're listening to. So as you're listening to this, go over to the episode description, and right there at the beginning, you're going to see some text that says, send me a text message. Go ahead, click that. Let me know what you think about the podcast so far. Let me know of any questions, concerns, anything you might have. I love to hear from you. So go ahead, hit that up. I'm excited to read your text, and let's get started with the episode.
You're not supposed to be getting up 3, 4, 5 times after midnight and racing down streets, code 3 at 70 miles an hour. You're not supposed to be going into fires and going into car accidents and listening to people scream all night. You're not supposed to be doing that. We're putting ourselves on the line, but what are we doing to ourselves to help after?
Welcome to the Keep the Promise podcast, where we help build resilient and well-rounded firefighters.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Keep the Promise podcast, where we build well-rounded and resilient firefighters. Emphasis on resilient, because the man here with me today is going to talk about, I kind of want to call it a miracle drug, quote unquote. It has helped me a ton personally, and I know he's going to let us know about all the other firefighters that has helped to sleep, to recover, to just be better people on and off the job. I'm super proud and super excited to have one of the OGs when I first started this podcast, John Vought from Rescue One CBD. John, welcome.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Really, really excited to be on. Thank you.
Yeah, we chatted back in October, November when I first started this this thing, and we finally got around to it. So I'm super excited to have you here, and
likewise
for your time.
Yeah, man.
So before we get into the whole CBD stuff, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your fire service career.
Yeah, I'm 35. I've got 14 years on the job. Got hired really young in South Florida as a firefighter-paramedic. You have to be a paramedic to work in the southern 3 counties of Florida. They won't hire you. I know, everyone. I'll leave the pause for everyone yelling boo, and then when we finish that, then I can continue the listening. And so, a couple of years of school, and then we do it. You got to get all your schooling done and then get hired. So, you have to walk on to the department with certs in hand. So I spent the first couple of years out of high school doing all that, got hired, young, and, I got promoted as a lieutenant, 6 years ago. I just got promoted to captain now. It's an awesome department. And I run the junior program, like the cadets. There. That's where I got started when I was a teenager. My mother's in the fire service. She's a captain with the Palm Beach County Fire Department, and she was kind of my inspiration for getting in. So when I got into the Explorer program, it kind of confirmed exactly what I thought, was that this profession is incredible, and I want to be a part of it. So I've just been all in on the job, and started this company a few years in, which is a whole different story. But I've dedicated a lot of my time, not just to the business, but to the fire service as well. I'm one of those guys, like, I show up to a lot of stuff. I'm active in the benevolent. I play the bagpipes, for the, pipe and drum corps for the fire department. Just I love giving back to the job as much as I can, and trying to, just be better at my craft, but also, give back to the department that's given me so much. I'm lucky to be able to work there. And it's one of those things, like that really cliche line, but it is true. We don't have to do this job. We get to do this job. So I get to work there. It's pretty awesome. So that's me in a nutshell. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that I'm very, very proud of, that, I want to keep working on, but freaking cat. Hey, get out of here. There's supposed to be no animals in this damn room. This is the speakeasies off limits to animals. I got 3 dogs and a cat, so there's a house. And
you honestly think a cat is going to obey any sort of direction?
I just usually try to scare him off.
He's looking at you. He's like, your bugles mean nothing, man.
I'm not really a cat guy. My fiance is a cat person, and by virtue of which I am now a cat person. But typically, no, I'm not really a cat person. He's cool. He just kind of leaves me alone. But my dogs, I got a husky, a shepherd husky, and like a lab pit mix. And they are
Or husky in the Florida
awesome.
heat.
They actually do pretty good. Like any other long-haired dog, like German Shepherds or anything like that. But yeah, they actually, shit, man, my dog, he goes out and sunbathes. Like, he loves laying in the sun.
No kidding.
Yeah, he loves it. But we do have to expel a lot of energy. We got to get him on like a skateboard. I get on a longboard and have him run me around because he's a freaking sled dog,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of me. Most of my time is just dedicated either to the job or the business.
You do a little bit of everything. I had no idea about the bagpipes. I had no idea you had family in the fire department.
Yeah. Bagpipes were self-taught. I've played a couple instruments, but the bagpipes were something that I've always been interested in, and I have a very iconic view and perception of the fire service, like what the job is supposed to be, and I've always wanted to do it. One of the guys in my department started the pipe and drum corps, and I was like, how do I learn? So I've been playing for almost 10 years. Sounds crazy to say. Yeah, almost 10 years.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, great instrument.
That's pretty awesome. And what were some of your assignments before you got to where you are right now?
So when I started my first assignment off probation, I was on a ladder truck in the downtown area, and it was awesome. And then in my department, once you when you're younger on the job, you're going to be on an ambulance for a while. We have a bid system by seniority. We have 250 people in the department. So, it's just kind of when you get enough time on, you'll probably bid an engine or a truck. But for the first amount of time, you're on an ambulance. We have 8 ambulances in the city, and we call them rescues. They're a 3-person company. There's a lieutenant on it, and we all have fire equipment. There's SCBA and bunker gear in the seat. So the first do and second do rescue are inside vent and outside vent on fires.
Whoa.
So So if you're first to rescue, everybody's got a thermal imager on our department, every single person. And you go in and we do oriented search inside, interior. And then the second do is VES or throwing ladders. So it's like you're on an ambulance taking people to the hospital, but you also have a fire officer on the truck, and you guys function, as a fire company. So it is, even if you kind of like medical stuff, it is an awesome job. It's an awesome job because we don't run, obviously, like most places, we don't run nearly as many fires as we do medical, but we get to really exercise those skills, with autonomy as a rescue company, even though you're an ambulance. Pretty cool. So I did that for the entire rest of the time because I got promoted to lieutenant when I was like 7 years on, which means you go to a lieutenant stays on the ambulance.
Okay.
Captain goes to a fire company.
Okay.
That's how we work them. So you can have a captain and a lieutenant at the station at the same time. You have an engine or ladder, and you have a rescue, and the captain is on either the engine or ladder, and the lieutenant's on the rescue. That's how most South Florida departments work. So I've been on a rescue on the ambulance for 14 years, and then I just got promoted to captain. So now I'm in the EMS division. I work I'm in the dark side, bro. I'm
trying to hold back my thoughts and my comments here.
With all the chiefs up there, and yep. But honestly, man, it's been a great experience doing that. I needed that like different perspective of the department. So it's been good for me.
Yeah, and we're gonna dig into that one because I'm excited to find out how you get along with some of these chiefs and some of them I get along really well. Some of these white shirts.
Yeah. Well, some of them might be listening, so I'm just going to say I got a great relationship with everybody. Just in case.
So
I'll be very real.
Tell me about the journey to CBD.
The short story is I had a really gnarly foot surgery. I had to get a fusion in my left ankle. So I couldn't move my foot left and right anymore. I can only move it up and down. And that wasn't like an injury on the job. I was just born with like a deformity, and I had to fix it because my foot was like super flat. And so I got it fixed, and I had to take opiates. There wasn't any alternative, which is fine. I think a lot of people would think I would say I needed to take THC instead, which I'm sure would be a great option. But what really screwed me up wasn't the pain stuff. It was the sleep. So after I stopped, sleeping was really screwed up. And, when I would do my own research on what I should do about it, it was like, you can take, if you're on the job, the doctors wanted to give me, things like Ambien or, Lunesta, Xanax even for sleep. And these are all like horrible. They're very addictive and all the stuff that I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that probably take those things. So, kind of how it is. But it was totally fine to take while I was on shift. And it just blew me away. Yeah. Like, how are we allowed to do that? Well, the answer was, well, you have a prescription. So I'm like, yes, but that affects your ability and your cognition and your ability to do the job. What's the difference between that and being intoxicated? To me, there's no difference, and they say you're not allowed to take Xanax while you're on shift, which you're not by the rule. But how could they prove you took it? You know what I mean? Like, if you took it yesterday, it's going to still be in your urine, so like, well, they go, well, we'll know you're high on shift. I'm like, okay, for this conversation, let's put a pin in that. We're going to get back to that later. We're going to know if you're on shift and you're intoxicated. That's how we do it, so that whole rule was kind of dumb to me. And I was like Googling like all this like natural pain relief and natural sleep stuff. CBD popped up and I was like, well, I can't take that. I'm going to fail a drug test. I'm going to skip all the middle stuff because basically there's like a whole bunch of trial and error. And then I worked for this other CBD company for a little while doing e-commerce stuff. And then I started my own. And after I found out that you can make this stuff safe for the job if you work with a lab and a chemist that know what they're doing, and you are going to pay a lot of money to do it because nobody wants to make it the way we make it because it takes a long time. So that's kind of where it went after I realized like how much it helped me with my sleep and all this other stuff. I'm like, this has got to be in the fire service. This would be crazy, but there's just nothing out there. Like I couldn't find anything that would talk about CBD safe for firefighters or, safe for drug testing or, any of that stuff. So, I had to kind of take it upon myself and here we are. This is, 3 years in. 4 years total with the other company that I was with. But 3 years in, because this is my company, I started this one. And we've had thousands of guys take it, guys and girls out there using our CBD with 0 failed drug tests. So we're really proud of that.
Yeah, I know you sent me a little sample box, and that thing has been a godsend. From
awesome.
Like sleep, the topical one, like the drops. I was a believer before, but now I'm a full blown Rescue One guy.
Yeah, I mean, I was very skeptical. I'm not really like a, I'm not like a naturalistic, kind of Eastern medicine type of person. I don't really like, I don't really kind of buy into non-traditional medicine. I think medicine, and medication and prescriptions and stuff have their place and they're extremely important. But I started getting into the research of this stuff and it blew me away how much is actually out there. There's quite a bit of studies done on CBD. It's just none of them have been done as like by a pharmaceutical company or as a drug, so it doesn't have FDA approval. So yeah, there's a lot of promise. It has big effects for firefighters. It's just we have to kind of break the concept of what it is. People think it's weed, and it's not.
So before we get into the whole people think it's weed, tell me about these benefits.
If I had to just narrow them down for what is important for us,
give me 3.
Sleep, inflammation, and anxiety. Those 3 are, probably the most research besides pediatric seizures. The whole other conversation, but the most amount of research that's ever been done has been in children with seizures. That's what the FDA actually approved CBD as a medication for, is pediatric seizures. So if you started Googling it, like that would be one of the biggest things you would see is it's proven it's actually a medicine for reducing seizures or eliminating seizures. But for firefighters, chronic inflammation, like the kind of inflammation that comes around from, waking up several times after midnight, very poor diet, or high levels of stress, consistently. The anxiety part of it, where I say mood, CBD has this really prominent effect that it binds to serotonin receptors, and it can increase levels of serotonin naturally, throughout your body. And serotonin is the feel-good hormone. There's a suspicion that it's strongly related to depression, anxiety, and a lot of other mental health disorders that affect mood. And with that, they suspect that CBD makes you feel good because it gives you more feel-good hormones. Or it doesn't give you more, but it increases the level in your blood naturally. And then sleep, there are a few mechanisms that it works by. There's a couple of mechanisms that it's suspected to work by, but most of them, they have no idea. When I say they, like the established medical community. So the first one is it lowers your body temperature slightly. Dr. Matt Walker wrote the book Why We Sleep. He's considered like one of the foremost experts on sleep. This is his study, was that CBD reduces body temperature slightly. And it also quiets down the portion of your brain, the amygdala, that is responsible for like fear and anxiety and that part of your brain that starts overthinking at night. Combined with the fact that it does reduce anxiety, it showed to do that in humans a lot and in animals. Dr. Matt Walker is suspecting that, CBD has these effects that are helping people fall asleep and stay asleep. So the average person was getting, I forget the amount of time, but it was increasing REM and non-REM sleep, total REM sleep, in people on double-blind studies. So it's not just animal trials; it's human trials. It was decreasing the time it takes you to fall asleep, and it was improving your quality of sleep while you were there. So even if you're not able to sleep your full 7 to 9 hours that are recommended, that what you do get in sleep is improved, which I think is key for us because we're not all getting all that. So, it's fascinating, man. It's like, some of these things are just, it's just from a plant, and, the effects that it's getting are those of like similar to prescription medication.
No. And like, I can tell the passion in your voice when you talk about this stuff, and the amount of data you have to support versus, hey, I like it, or hey, it's good. It's like, here are the reasons why. And I think that's been very important in your CBD career, if we shall call it that, because you have run into a bit of, I don't want to say a backlash, but a bit of a pushback.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's do something real quick though. So, brand spanking new firefighter, or, I'm dealing with the stress of the job. I have never used CBD before. I'm kind of curious about it. How would I go about incorporating that into my daily routine so I can sleep better, so I can reduce my inflammation, so I can lower my anxiety?
Yeah. I'll kind of give you some of the data stuff. I'm not really a salesman. I don't like I don't pitch this stuff to my guys at all. So I'll just kind of tell you like from a data side, but if you're having anxiety throughout the day, CBD takes about an hour to kick in when you take it under the tongue. So there are a few different ways to take CBD. You can vape it, you can take a gummy or a pill or something, or you can put it under the tongue. The vaping is actually the fastest way for it to kick in, but I can't put the Rescue One brand on anything like vaping where I don't have any data long term on what it does to the human body. Mm-hmm. There's a pretty decent amount of pharmacokinetic data, like what CBD does to your body when you have it naturally taken, like ingested under the tongue, but it's not supposed to be in your lungs. So nothing but air should be in there, right? Nitrogen and oxygen. So I'm like, you know what, man, I can't get behind that. We're not going to do it at all. So sublingual is what I recommend. And because it lasts the longest as well. So knowing it takes about an hour to kick in, if you have anxiety like at certain times of the day, or that's affected by X, Y, or Z, taking an hour before that. It lasts 6 hours in general. So knowing that your anxiety might peak certain times of the day, you got to take that into consideration. And same thing for sleep. While it's not 100% sure what time is best to take CBD for sleep, because it's really just a balance of the hormones in your body that make you sleep better. Every study that's ever been done has been, an hour or two before bed. So peaking those levels of cannabinoids in your body, it makes sense that you would want them to start kicking in before you fall asleep, give you the feeling of relaxation. And when you do fall asleep, help with that REM. So 1 hour before bed. A lot of people take it like once in the morning, once at night, and some people don't have to do that. The other thing about CBD is, and any cannabinoid, is it binds to your fat. So it will build up in your body over time. So a lot of people don't don't need to take it every day after taking it for a while. You can take it and every other day or once every few days. CBD any cannabinoid takes, after it saturates in your body, takes weeks to eliminate. So your overall anxiety or whatever you're taking it for might just be naturally reduced without having the need to use it all the time, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's two questions that come from that. Number one, because we always talk about the therapeutic threshold when we're talking about prescription drugs and stuff. I know Steph White did a pretty big presentation on cannabis and the fire service and the fact that, say that I'm taking was it like SSRI or some antidepressant, and I'm at work, I miss my dose, I'm working at 48, I'm working plus, and I'm missing it. So now I'm not able to maintain that balance. You're telling me that once I build it with CBD, I can just coast? Is there I guess it depends on your body type, right? It depends on your fat content, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And the truth is there is no predetermined length. All we can talk about is averages, because from what one doctor who I always consult with, she says that she calls it the body burden. So every person's fat content is totally different, and their rate of metabolism is totally different, and just how you would generally metabolize that CBD or other cannabinoid just matters, and how frequently you took it before, and then like how much water you've been drinking. There's so many factors that come into play. It's just really unknown. But the general concept that it does build up in your fat and take a long time to excrete and eliminate is categorically true. So it's like, it just depends on how you feel, and that's why we tell people like, hey, try it out, one dose at a time, see what it does, because there are, fortunately and unfortunately, however you want to look at it, there's about 1% or less of people that when they take it, they get really, really, really tired and they just fall right asleep. I'm not one of those. I think most people that take CBD, at least our people, really want to take it for sleep. So they would be stoked if they had that, but that's not typically the case. So, where you don't want to have that is, you take it during the day and you feel exhausted, or like you have a long drive. You don't want to take it and be exhausted. So I would say just like take it, when you don't have anything going on, take one serving and see how it makes you feel. And then, you can up it from there if you'd like.
Dude, that's wild. I had no idea that it would build up and it just helps you coast. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's one of the awesome effects of it.
Yeah, especially for sleep. I mean, there are people that after you, especially like when you correct your circadian rhythm, after it's corrected, as long as you don't have any external factors that are really screwing it up too much, too consistently, really our circadian rhythm is a balance of hormones. It's a balance of melatonin and cortisol. And, our brain and our pituitary gland specifically telling us when to wake up and when to go to sleep. And, along with some other parts of your brain too, but it just with the hormones, melatonin and cortisol coming out, it's like, are you getting light when you're supposed to get light? Are you feeling tired when you're supposed to get tired? And then, so CBD has an interesting, I'll nerd out for a second, but the correlation with CBD and bad sleep and good sleep is when you are sleep deprived, your body naturally makes cannabinoids. Anandamide is one and 2-AG is another. And your body is in a sleep, when it's in a sleep deprived state, those two cannabinoids are at an all-time low. They're horribly deficient. Conversely, if you're sleeping really well, those two cannabinoids are really, really high. They're way up. So if you're sleeping poorly because you're getting up every night on shift, you can't affect that. But what you can do is affect it when you go home. The problem is we only have a day or two off shift, depending on where you work, where you have to correct that. You can't correct that shit in 2 days. Your body needs, Dr. Walker's like, for every hour of sleep deprivation, you need 8 days.
Oh God,
to correct it. That ain't going to get fixed. You need a month off of work for one night. So we're just constantly in this sleep deprived state, because everyone's like, why do I need this to correct what my body's naturally supposed to do? Because you're doing unnatural stuff to your body. You're not supposed to be getting up 3, 4, 5 times after midnight and racing down the streets, code 3 at 70 miles an hour. You're not supposed to be going into fires and going into car accidents and listening to people scream all night. You're not supposed to be doing that. We're putting ourselves on the line, and God bless us for doing it. You know what I mean? And all you people out there doing it. But Like, what are we doing to ourselves to help after? And, when you look at the or the chemistry, the body's chemistry of what the effects of that service are, do the opposite to help that, right? If your endocannabinoids are low and your cortisol is really high and like all the stuff, like correct that. So it's like oxidants and antioxidants. So, if you correct that circadian rhythm a little bit, especially if you start that regimen like on a vacation or when you have time to kind of reset, you'll notice like, all right, I'm sleeping good. I don't have to take this stuff every night. So you can cycle on and off easily.
Dude, I'm still blown away by the fact that it just chills in our body, because I thought it was. I used to take it every night before going to sleep, and then I'm like, man, I'm not showing up to work with my bottle of CBD because somebody's going to call it dope, and I'm going to have to start answering uncomfortable, annoying questions, and I'm just going to get mad.
Yeah.
And that changes the whole game, because now I know that, like you said, if I go on a vacation, like I'm off for a few more days, I can start that now. And then by the time I show up to work, I'm hopefully a little bit more corrected, and I'm going to be able to cushion those blows of getting up 4 or 5 times after midnight and having to do the stuff that we do.
Yeah. And I mean, just the inflammation too, staying up after midnight, even if you correct your circadian rhythm, there's still a lot of chronic inflammation, because when you're awake, your body has to release cortisol to that's the hormone you secrete to kind of combat melatonin. Those two things fight each other. So in the middle of the night, your cortisol is supposed to be low. When you wake up, it's supposed to be up. Well, your cortisol was up all day. You go to sleep. Then you wake up all night, and now your cortisol's up all night. Cortisol is a very important hormone. It's supposed to help with being alert, and it's supposed to. Inflammation is a natural response. It's supposed to happen, but when it's constantly there, they call it chronic inflammation. And if you Google the effects of chronic inflammation, it's tied to basically every major disease that kills the most amount of Americans every year. It's heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, Parkinson's, dementia. All that stuff is chronic inflammation is directly correlated to it. Specifically, like what they call oxidative stress, and it's it's like we're putting our bodies in a state of that all the time. We have this thing that's natural, that has no side effects, that we can take to combat it. And we have a whole system in our body that's designed to receive cannabinoids. It's called the endocannabinoid system, and it's like, it's dormant. We don't touch it at all. So the whole thing's really interesting if you dig in. The more you dig in, the more you like uncover, and then, next thing you know, you're starting a CBD company.
Well, I mean, if there's nothing out there, you might as well create it, right? That's every success story you've read out there. You're scratching your own itch.
That's it. I mean, I don't. I consider it successful because we help people.
Mm-hmm.
Financially doesn't matter, and also like I don't consider myself an entrepreneur or a businessman. I'm a firefighter that was extremely frustrated over one particular thing, and I wanted to correct it, because I know if I was dealing with it, then there was X amount of people that also were. And especially when, like, if you bring this up around the firehouse, you're always going to have a couple of people that'll be like, I don't agree with you, and I don't think that's a good idea. But for the most part, people are saying, like, this all is very common sense. Like, nobody can wrap their head around why this is still stigmatized. And I'm like, hang on a second. If everybody I talk to agrees with me, why the hell are we still in this position? It doesn't make any sense. The overwhelming majority all agree. They all have this exact same mindset. Even a lot of chiefs. You guys would be surprised at the amount of chiefs that would sit down and have a rational conversation with you and agree with you. And they're like, yeah, totally get it. No, you're right. I'm like, well, then what are we doing? What are we doing? Why are we like banging your head against the wall, wondering why you have a headache? Man, I don't get it.
I blame Reagan. And the whole war on drugs. I legitimately, the other day, because I like to start shit on shift, and
sure.
Cannabis just got legalized in Maryland,
right?
And so, of course, that was a talk around the kitchen table. One of the captains, love him to death, but he's like, I feel it's a gateway drug, and like 20 years of Catholic school indoctrination just smacked me in the face, and I about threw my plate across the kitchen. I had a meltdown. I'm like, it is not a gateway. Like, I'm not gonna try CBD, or I'm not going to try a THC gummy, right, and then, start performing sexual acts for heroin in the corner type thing. Like that's a bit of a stretch.
It's a huge stretch. I will say something on that, and that people that have addicted personalities are going to be addicted to anything. But, you know, there are people that are addicted to weed, but only because they didn't find, you know, whatever drug first. And it's like, you can't blame that on the THC compound.
I was going to say that's your personality.
Exactly. So those same people might just have just as high of an affinity for gambling, or, you know, whatever, pick your vice. But, the truth is that, you know, there is a very strong correlation between getting addicted to something, releasing dopamine, and, just, you know, or your personality, which is more to do with genetics than anything else. And THC just doesn't have that release. There is a small I believe there is a small dopamine release with THC. I know much more about CBD than THC, just full disclosure, but I believe there's a small release of THC of dopamine with THC, but it's not like heroin. You know, heroin is like, you can take heroin one time and you can be addicted for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's game over.
It's not the same. So yeah.
Hey friends, I want to take a quick moment to ask you to support the show by leaving a rating and a review on your favorite platform. Your support means the world to us, and it helps spread the message to even more people. We've gotten thousands and thousands of listeners, and those high ratings help our show become more discoverable, allowing us to reach even more listeners and make an even greater impact. So, if you've enjoyed what you heard so far, please take a moment to leave a rating and a review. It only takes a few seconds, and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much, and now let's get back to the show. So, we can't really discuss CBD without understanding where it comes from, how it's made. And I'm really interested in your process, because when I first talked to you, you know, complete strangers, you blew me away with, you've dotted every I, crossed every T, and you have all bases covered. So tell me more a little bit about that.
The way we make it, CBD is a prominent compound in the hemp plant. Hemp is different than marijuana. It is from the same species of cannabis, right? But the specific family is Cannabis sativa L, and it has to be less than 0.3% THC by weight. That's the federal definition. Basically, what that means is you have these two plants that could look very similar, that could smell the same, and sometimes they're indistinguishable from each other depending on what kind of hybrid was made. But one of them is not going to get you high if you smoke it, and the other one's going to get you high if you smoke it. That's the difference. So we start off with the hemp plant. Hemp is legal to grow in all 50 states. You can extract any compound you want out of it, and the biggest compound in there is CBD. So it just so happens that CBD has all these like very prominent effects in the body, and it's been studied. There's like 100 some odd compounds in the hemp plant. CBD is just one of them. And when we harvest the hemp, the issue is for firefighters is that there's a small amount of THC in there, up to 0.3%, which is plenty to fail a drug test, but not nearly enough to get you high. So we have to remediate all the THC out of there. Now, there's the industry standard, and then there's what we do. So like if you go to a farm and you want to, have them make you grow enough hemp to extract 1 kilogram of CBD, as a powder. If you did that, the industry standard for calling it THC free is to still have 0.02% of the product as THC. So if I made that and put it all in bottles, you would have a fraction of a percent of THC in all these bottles, which sucks. And that's like the industry standard of calling it THC free. So if you go to a store and you go to buy that bottle and you say, is this THC free? They can say, yeah, even though there is some in there. So it took me a long time to find a farm and a lab that is willing to work on this with me, but we have to get down to non-detectable levels in the isolate, in like the first ingredient. And that, and also, I had to learn what the detection level was, because that's like, if they're looking at parts per thousand, like something that's not a very high standard to look at, and they're like, oh yeah, there's none in there. I'm like, yeah, but You're basically like looking at this with your eyeballs in your hand. Like you're not even looking at it with a microscope. That's the level of difference. I need parts per billion. I need 0 parts per billion. I need it to not have one detectable amount of THC with the most powerful microscopes that we can find. So extremely hard to do. Nobody wants to do it. I had to work really hard to get this contract going. So we do. That's what we do. And then we basically test it 3 times. So we test it in the manufacturing process. We test it when it's done being manufactured. And then we test it one more time after we bottle everything to make sure my fireman math didn't screw up all the amount of CBD that's supposed to be in the bottle. And we have to make sure there's no contaminants in there, that there's no bacteria in it, that there's no heavy metals, no pesticides, no solvents. So 3 lab tests separate from each other. They all have to match up. And we take a QR code, we put it on every bottle so you can scan and see for yourself. But on top of all that, we send a drug test home with you so you can see that you're passing drug tests at home, which is like the kind of cherry on top. You're like, all right, man, if you don't believe me and you think I screwed one of those things up, let's throw this on there. So it's like at NASA, they call them single point failures. There's like one thing, if it goes wrong, it'll blow up the whole mission. So I want to eliminate all single point failures, right? So I've kind of gone on and just kind of reverse engineered it like that. That's all right. It's I know it's kind of a long way to explain it, but the only way to get trust in this brand, man, is to be super transparent and to just display everything that we do, including the screw ups, which we have had in the past. So I've shown, everything. And that's kind of it, start to finish.
So what happens if you fail one of your tests? Like what you have your 3 tests and say number 2 doesn't pass muster. What happens now?
We've had that happen. Yeah. We trashed the whole batch. Yeah. I don't want to talk about it.
But I mean, that shows that you are committed to making sure that this is firefighter safe, because between that and the at-home drug test, that gives me the warm and fuzzies, right? That tells me that I'm not buying some fly-by-night type of thing that, it might make me feel good. It might also make me lose my job. So
stuff's great.
Right. Oh my God, this stuff is great. But now I find myself up at headquarters for the rest of my career. It's important because, especially in the fire service, we can be very hesitant to adopt new things. And especially when we find it really hard to differentiate between hemp, marijuana, when 100%. People call CBD dope, when people call marijuana dope. Like we have this idea of, hey, that's bad. Alcohol and prescription drugs are good because somebody said that they're good, but it's like, okay, you with 3 tests and a QR code and a drug test said it is good. So I'm going to give you the same amount of trust that I put into the people who prescribe me drugs or the people who, bottle whiskey or whatever might be drinking.
Yeah. And I mean, I joked about when I said I didn't want to talk about it, but like I meant just because it was so stressful for me. It happened at FDIC. I was waiting on a batch to come in and we had run out. We were completely out. I was on back order. I'm flying up to FDIC. I need like 1,000 products up there, like literally 1,000. And we had them bottled up and I had already shipped them up there, but I'm waiting on the lab to come back. And the lab was taking like 2.5, 3 weeks to produce a lab test. Sometimes it takes a long time. And I get the email while I'm setting up my booth that says, hey, there's 0.01% THC in the product. And I was like, hey, can I call up my sister who runs coming in? Can we send a bottle off to another lab and just double check it? But in the meantime, I can't sell this, So I was like, let's double check it and then let's have this test rerun. And because there is a way to contaminate the instruments so that if they were testing a product with THC in it before and they retest mine and they always keep that bottle. So they're like, no problem. It's not likely that this place I use, like they're a DEA lab. Like they ain't fucking around. You know what I mean? Extremely buttoned up, And so they're like, when I said like, hey, is this possibly contaminated? They're like, buddy, you have no idea who you're dealing with. Like you're a fireman. Like who are you talking to? I have 75 letters after my name. Anyway, sure. We'll redo it. So they knew what it was going to come back. This came back the exact same thing. And I was just like, all right, well, this is trash. So, and they were so funny. They like run through the math with me and they're like, look, man, this is such a small amount, probably not going to cause a failed drug test. I was like, You just said the worst word I ever wanted to hear, probably. I'm like, no, man, that's not how we operate, dude.
That would destroy your brand.
Yeah. And, exactly. And worse off, cost somebody their job. I'll never do it, so, I trashed the brand, and everybody at FDIC heard the story. And I was like, THC came back in the product. I was like, it's trashed. And, I thought that was going to be like the end of the brand, because they're going to be like, this guy doesn't even know how to make this shit. And it was fine. It all worked out. I think a lot of people saw that I was serious about what I said I would do, because I've gone on podcasts and said exactly how you asked me that question, and I responded. I was like, I'll trash the batch and we'll start over. And I did, at the most inconvenient, most expensive time. It costs me a lot of money to go up to FDIC, and I have to sell a lot to recoup that money. And I didn't. So it's kind of just, I was trying to walk the walk, man, and I will keep doing that.
Yeah, you're doing the right thing. You're standing by your values, and people like that. People definitely respect that. They're like, this dude just literally flushed a lot of money down the drain, but now I know that he's trustworthy, right? You're not gonna jeopardize my career for the sake of the profits, which in this day and age is huge, and even more so in the fire service, where we're supposed to be brothers and sisters, and we throw those words around so easily. It's important to actually live up to those standards. What were some of the initial reactions that you got from people at work, from colleagues, from superiors when the CBD thing came about?
I'm still getting them. I get called Pablo all the time, stuff like that.
As a Colombian, born and raised in Medellin with Pablo during my early
Were
days.
You really?
Oh, yeah.
Medellin?
I remember when, when everything was going down. I remember when he got killed. Like, Jesus, you would...
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes you're like, what if I find a kilo of coke? You're like, well, you might die, but you might also be rich for the rest of your life. Anyway, Pablo started with marijuana and then ended up doing all the other hard drugs. He was never doing any CBD, okay? For those of you calling John Pablo.
Yeah, straighten him out, bro.
As the resident Colombian, don't make me get angry.
Yes, exactly. See? Man, I get, the people on shift are wildly supportive of me, and it's really cool to see. Like I said, if you went around the department, everyone would probably be on the same page. Even a lot of the chiefs, I had guys that I worked with in the administration building that would buy products, like they were super open to it, and very much, cool that. And there's a few that are strongly against it, but they don't give me a hard time at all. Like, it's been very refreshing. I would say I get more, or they're just not telling me, honestly, but they could just be keeping it to themselves, which is fine. It's all good. But I get a lot more negative reactions out of other people, sometimes on social media. And then like when I go to FDIC, that's like, you put your boxing gloves on, people get, cause you're seeing the entire demographic of the U.S. fire service, right? You're seeing every different mindset, good and bad. And it's overwhelmingly good, just to be clear. But, it's a reflection of society too, right? There's open-minded people, there's closed-minded people, there's, easygoing people, there's really, really, tense and very, anal people, it's like, so that's kind of what I'm getting there. But overall, pretty good, man. I never really had any negative stuff.
How do you deal with the skeptics?
I don't deal with them. Honestly, man, it's there are people that come up to me when I try to talk about the product, and they're like, I just can't risk it. I don't want to fail a drug test. And I'm like, that's cool, man. I'm not gonna chase you down. Like, was it like, no offense to anybody that's Mormon, like the memes where like the Mormons are like, running you down and be like, let me tell you about the Lord and Savior. I'm not chasing you down to preach to you about this. I can't. I want to be here for the people that are genuinely interested in it. And I want to just try to help the people that want the help. I'm not going to try to convert a whole shit ton of people. I just want to show people that if you are looking for this product, that I made it safe for the job. And I can tell you how I want to do it. But, I'm not chipping away at I'm not chipping away at the Great Wall of China with a freaking hammer. Like, I'm not doing it. So there's a lot of people out there that are skeptical. And all I can say is, like, look, there's a lot of research. If they're asking me, like, hey man, I'm really skeptical, change my mind, like 100%. But, the people that just like brush me off, I'm like, I'm not chasing you, dude. This isn't, you're not the person I'm trying to help here. So, yeah, I mean, I hate to be like dismissive. I also just, I don't blame them, like, dude, how did we grow up? Yeah. I'm 35. I was born in 88. I grew up in the dare years, like having that, drugs are bad thing, like constantly put in your face, and marijuana being the prominent criminal one. I grew up my entire life thinking marijuana was going to kill me, that some guy was going to, feed me a joint one day, out of his van. And then I was going to end up in the gutter, in a matter of days.
I mean, if you eat it, probably.
Yeah, there's just so much other worse stuff to worry about. But I can't blame those guys. Like, this is what we grew up with. This is just buried in our heads, and inertia is a very powerful force, man. Like, once you're going in a certain direction, it's very hard to stop it and to even turn it around. So, like, I just let it be. There's always going to be skeptics. That's all.
And you talked about that institutional inertia, and I count you among, I guess we can call it the merry band of misfits who have been trying to change that institutional inertia, like Stack and Stephanie and the usual suspects. Right. And asking those tough questions that we have been avoiding for so many years. And you're going to be at the Ohio conference at Brothers Helping Brothers, right?
Yeah, I have no idea how I got on that.
Well, what's the plan when you do show up?
I don't know. Ask Stephanie.
Come on, man. We're all going to be there, though.
Yeah, no, this is how this went down. Stephanie and Sean O'Leary from Pittsburgh, who, Stephanie's friggin' really, really smart, writes a lot of very awesome articles for engineering about cannabis and policy and all these things. And Sean with Pittsburgh helped those guys get marijuana into their department. And so her and Sean got asked to go be on this panel at Beaver Creek. And Stephanie's like, tells Sean, yeah, you know who we need to get? John. And then he's like, hell yeah. Who's John? Like, what? I don't. Yeah, like what is the deal here? And she was like, oh, he's got this CBD company, Rescue One. He's he researches a lot and he's got a lot of experience. So that was it. And they put me on the panel. I spoke with the guy who runs Beaver Creek, super good dude, and we talked a lot. And then next thing you know, they put me on the website with Sean and Stephanie, and after Brendan McDonough, the guy from the Prescott 19 firefighters, from Yarnell fire, like those guys that died out there. He's the only living survivor, the dude from Only the Brave. He's speaking before us, and then we're going on after. So I'm just honored, man. I was so floored to be asked to do that, and I'm really there just for the CBD side. Those other two are the probably the main attention, and all the questions are going towards them. But if anybody does have any stuff on CBD, that's kind of what I'm there to do, is just talk about that stuff.
And I think doing that so openly and so publicly at these conferences helps us legitimize our cause, because it's so refreshing to see this crew and finding like-minded folks who believe in changing the fire service for the better with what are considered quote-unquote alternative methods. It's just stuff that we're not used to yet. So that hopefully in a generation or two, the people who follow us are not stuck with these prescription drugs all the time, or, dealing with alcoholism, or unable to sleep, or, all of these things that we're trying to fight, that we know are what help us be long lasting in this career.
Yeah. I mean, you could say it makes us die younger. That's what it does. And, if people ask me, like, what does Rescue One do? I tell them we're in the business of increasing firefighter longevity. I want people to live longer, so, it's like convenient that, you get better sleep. Hopefully it's reducing all the chronic inflammation and doing all that. But the end goal is that, maybe we can boost up that average life expectancy after retirement. And, you can have guys that don't have to have all these debilitating, ailments and diseases and I'm not saying CBD cures that, especially if anybody from the FDA is listening. All I'm saying is that there's a direct correlation between all of these really horrible things that happen to us as a result of our job decades down the road that you never think about, because when you're in your 20s or early 30s or whenever you get hired, like, you just want to be a fireman. And like I said, it's awesome, but it doesn't start to click for a little while until you're like, man, I can't get more than 3 hours of sleep at home. Like, this kind of sucks. How do I fix this? Oh, take a whole bunch of medication, but oof. So yeah, like I think you're right. I want there to be that option. That's what it is. It's an option.
I dig it. Is there something, actually, no, before we go there, because I want to keep talking about introducing CBD and everything, but for some reason the thought popped into my head of, you just got promoted, you just made captain. I don't want to call you a ladder climber, but hey, you're in that second rung. And this is a legit question. We see a lot of folks, and this might come across as aggressively, but I don't care, that once they start going up the ranks, they sort of lose their teeth, if you will. They forget the things that they wanted to do, or they happily stash them away for the sake of appeasing the system.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I've noticed about you, that you do the total opposite. You stand firm in what you believe in. You don't back down. Were you worried at all about this promotion? Or...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you think you were going to face any backlash?
Yeah. So our promotional process is like pretty, it's really hard to be biased. It's very like third party and whatever else. So in that sense, no. I did get in trouble once in my department where I was suspended, without pay for like my affiliation with the business and kind of mentioning the fire department. And, I didn't put any logos or anything like that on Instagram or anything, but the fire chief was listening to a podcast, funny enough, and was listening to me talk about CBD and like saying I worked where I worked, and like, went to the website and was like, hey, these pictures are by our fire station, and it's like, ooh.
Oh no.
So Johnny got in trouble. Big trouble. I found out later that termination was on the table, and they were really pissed. So settling for suspension, I was like, all right, I guess so. And like, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm not like a shitty employee. I have great employee evaluations. I've given back to the department a lot. I've been nominated for firefighter of the year 5 times, and paramedic of the year, 2 years ago. I was like, run the Explorer program. I tried to, I like really, really wanted to love this place, and I still do. Like, I don't hold it against them. It wasn't anything to do with them. But the fire chief kind of like, at the time, we don't have that guy anymore. He saw it and went straight to admin or HR with it, and I felt like, I was like, oh man, I'm screwed. I'm not getting promotion. But no, this new administration, like the people that are there right now, they have approached me directly, the fire chief himself, and was like, look, there is no hard feelings, and I don't consider anything that happened, like, I don't hold that against you. There's no bad blood. Like, you're a great employee, and you're valued here. And that meant a lot to me, man, because that little bit of time, it took 90 seconds to say that to somebody, But I know the guy at the top of the department has specifically told me that, he has respect, for me, and like, a screw up does not account for, I don't think I screwed anything up, but a screw up does not account for, future behavior or anything like that. So, it was cool. That felt good, but I hope I don't lose teeth. I hope I stand firm in the things I believe in. I want to try to be that. I worry about that. Like, legitimately, I always want to kind of like take my own temperature. Like, am I still there for the men and women? Am I doing right by the crew? Cause they have to come first, every time. I believe the citizens will be served properly if the leaders say, my people come first, because I want my people to say the citizens are first. And they're only going to feel like that if, the leadership's there for them. So on my truck, when I was on a truck, my guys came first all the time. And by virtue of which we put the citizen first, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I've seen a lot of people on my department that were amazing leaders, and that's what they did. So I'm just trying to do what they did.
Yeah, that's the way to be. And trust me, if I see you slipping, I'm going to say something.
Say something. Yes, exactly. You ain't going to hurt my feelings, man. I got very thick skin. I always tell people, I'm like, the best thing you can do for me is don't pull punches, just be straight, shoot right between the eyes.
Yeah. And in general, for the fire department and for life, that feedback is so important.
Got to have that. Yeah.
And we have to be able to swallow that ego. And the next best thing we can say after somebody gives us a feedback is thank you. Because that is
hard to do, isn't it?
Oh my God, it's so difficult. That's
hard to do.
That's why it's important to look at it as like, hey, an outsider chose to give me his or her perspective that I would have missed otherwise. So thank you, because
it's a gift.
It is a gift indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. And only your truest friends are going to do it for you, because that's an uncomfortable conversation. And people avoid uncomfortable conversations, especially when they know like the person might not take it well, but they need to hear it. That's how you know who your true friends are. Like, they will talk crap about you to your face, and they'll talk good about you behind your back. Those are your friends. They're real friends.
Those are the real ones. I had a guy with a couple of years on who pulled me aside, and he's like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. Promise you won't get mad. And it was that split second.
I can't promise.
You can do what a lot of people with a certain amount of time in the department would be, is like, fuck him. He's new. What does he have to do? Mm-hmm. Or you can take the other path and be like, all right, talk to me, because obviously you're seeing something that I'm not, and maybe I'm losing my perspective. And everything he said was right. Everything. Yeah. And I thanked him. It was, and again, that was a gut punch, but it was important for me to be like, thank you.
Yeah.
And when it does happen again, don't hesitate.
Yeah, that's it, man. Just right between the eyes,
So we're talking about lessons learned. What are some of give me your top 3 lessons learned in this CBD journey?
Great. That's it
can be about business. It can be about the fire service. I mean, I'm interested in both.
Yeah. There's, with this, and just, taking this concept and, bringing it, I think I've learned patience more than anything. And we kind of touched on it earlier, but just dealing with skeptics, and, just having this different view of people, where you were to say, who are you here for? Like, are you going to stick to your guns with your moral compass? Like, what your mission is, just stick to that. And then I could go on and on. That's the personal side. I could go on and on about the business side, like persevering through obstacle after obstacle, getting into anything CBD or cannabis related, because unfortunately they are viewed kind of as the same thing, is covered in red tape, and it is not made for the average person to try to get into, let alone a firefighter. And someone with no business experience and just kind of literally jumping into this head first, it's really tough. But another really big lesson I learned is that that cliche saying that's really true is like, you can tell who the pioneers are in something because they're the ones with the arrows in their back, like,
oh, I like that.
Yeah, I got them. I definitely got them. And it's just, I don't even have to go into detail, but like, from a personal, professional side, there have been a lot of arrows shot at me, and some of them unintentional, but there's just, there's a lot that you are going to run into that you kind of have to decide. My dad, and I are very close, and we talk about the business all the time. And, he'd told me, he's like, if I were in your position, I would have quit like 5 times already, And my dad's like one of the toughest people I've ever met in my life. I don't know if that guy's ever called out sick. He's an electrician. He works on construction sites. 63 years old. He's still doing it. And he's like, I would have quit like 5 times already. I was like, oh, shit. Because I used to work with him. That guy, man, like, it's 105 every day in South Florida right now, and he's out there outside. And like, I'm thinking to myself, I can't do what that guy does, and he's telling me that. So, sometimes I remember, I have to give myself a little bit of credit too. I have to be patient with myself, and just to like say, like take stock of where I've been, and just remember to be like, dude, you were, Googling how to start a business, like a few years ago, so, it's kind of all over the place, but I've learned so much in so many different dimensions, and I'm still learning. I'm trying to learn constantly. I'm trying to learn both about CBD and about business, so that I can keep this thing going,
Yeah. And that serves you well, both in the fire service and in the business world. You can't be stagnant. So. What is the one failure that you cherish the most?
I'm like, should I say this? Because you might be listening. I had a business failure with someone who I was in business with, and it was more just business than personal. It really was. I'm sure that person would tell you different, but it taught me a lot because I thought I needed them. Like I wouldn't survive without them because I didn't know anything about business, and then I started to learn I'm fully capable, and it took that. I would say the failure was like my lack of trust in myself and belief in myself. And I just doubted myself constantly for a good year, and then, I thought I needed this like safety net, and, it was a huge mistake. I should have gone with my gut, early, and I should have, believed in myself a little bit more. And when I did, I got to do the things that I wanted to do, make decisions I wanted to make in it. And it was the best thing, for the business. And so I would say that, like doubting myself, not believing that I had the ability or that I could, was a huge mistake, but I'm so glad it happened early because, it kind of set the foundation for me doing things that I wanted to do and actually creating the Rescue One brand.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
That was a bit of the ambush question. I apologize for that.
No, it's all good.
John, where can we find you?
So on Instagram, rescue_1_CBD, that, we're really responsive on there. You can just email me too. I'm always, John, Jon at rescue1, CBD.com. And our website, rescue1CBD. Again, this was the number one. And, if anybody has any questions. So my sister Kim works with us. She runs all the social media stuff. She edits all the stuff for Instagram, and she puts stuff on YouTube and LinkedIn, and I don't even know how many pages she runs. This girl is a hustler. Like, I just found out we have a TikTok. Didn't even know that. She's just, so I'm sure we're on like every platform. We're on Twitter, or what's it called? X now.
Oh boy.
Dude,
you got to get on Threads now.
Yeah, I'm not on there at all. I'm not on Threads, I don't think. It's funny. Like, I don't even know why we're on Twitter. I get why we're on LinkedIn, like for fire chiefs and stuff. Because Kim, my sister, also writes policies, and she's helped fire departments write CBD policies, which has been pretty wild. Some unsuccessful, but some successful. And so, because she's a political science major, for whatever reason, she has an obsession with policy. She loves law and policy, and I don't know, somebody's got to do it. So, she's a great resource too. If that's something, that's Kim at Rescue One CBD. And, we love talking about this stuff. As you can tell, like I can nerd out for a while. If any of this was like kind of, something that somebody wants to like go deeper in or double click on, just give me a shout, and I'd love to give you any information, or references or anything like that.
Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed that episode with John from Rescue One CBD. The dude is super smart, and he loves the topic. You can just tell in how he talks about it and how he carries himself and how much he cares about his crew and about the fire service in general. So hopefully you got a ton of value out of it. Remember to check out rescue1cbd.com and see what it can do for you. Look, I'm also super pumped because we have a ton of shout outs on the podcast, which means the Patreon community has been growing. I'm super thankful. We're doing great things. We're getting closer to the goal of creating that fund to help firefighters in need. And it's just awesome being surrounded by like-minded individuals. So drum roll, please. Special shout out on the podcast goes out to Brandon from Winsboro, Texas, Phil from Clover, South Carolina, Joshua from Santa Rosa, California, Paul from Chesapeake, Virginia, DJ K, you left me no address. Still shout out to you. Appreciate you. Nick from New Kensington, PA. That's where Tank to Pump Frank videos from. Shout out Nick. Shelby from Chandler, Indiana. Trevor from Girard, Ohio. Alex from, oh, this is a new one. Hopatcong? Hopatcong, New Jersey. All right, Alex, you and Jersey managed to stump me. Thanks. Mac from Salt Lake, Utah. Taylor from Holland, Michigan. Brandon 25 from Lisbon, Connecticut. Joshua from, oh God, another one. Chanhassen, Minnesota. My buddy Dave Angelo from Hampstead, Maryland. Joshua from Stafford Courthouse, Virginia. And last but certainly not least, Cody from Pittsburgh, PA. You guys are awesome. You're helping continue this community, doing great things. The online store is coming soon. We have a ton of trainings coming up. I'm lining up some incredible podcast guests. I'm excited. I hope you're excited as well, because I keep repeating myself, but we keep doing awesome things for the fire service. Thank you for listening. Be good. Be safe. I'll catch you on the next one. Hey, everyone. It's TJ here from Keep the Promise. As you know, this podcast is all about helping firefighters become more resilient and well-rounded so that they can be a force for good within their fire department and their community. But today, I want to talk to you about something that's just as important, and that is supporting firefighters who are going through tough times. When one of our fellow firefighters is off work because they have to go to the Center for Excellence, they have to go to rehab, they have mental health issues, or they have other health issues, it really takes away their support system, and it wreaks havoc on their finances and their family's finances. And many times, these brothers and sisters are left to struggle alone, away from their support system and the people who love them, without the resources they need to recover. That's why I'm setting a bold new goal. And that is to reach 150 total patrons on Patreon so that we can start a fund to help firefighters and their families during these challenging times. And I need your help to make it happen. With your support on Patreon, we'll be able to provide financial assistance to firefighter families who are battling things like addiction, depression, and cancer. We're going to help alleviate the financial strain that can come with being away from the fire department so that our brothers and sisters can focus on healing and recovering. Now, reaching 150 total patrons is a big goal, but I believe that we can do it together. And when we do, we'll be able to make a real difference in the lives of those who serve and protect alongside us. So, if you're not already a patron, I invite you to join us today. Head over to joinkeepthepromise.com and sign up today. Again, that is joinkeepthepromise.com. And if you already are a patron, thank you so much for your support. You'll be receiving some exclusive rewards and perks as a way of saying thanks. Together, let's show our fellow firefighters that we've got their back just like they always have ours. Thank you for listening. Let's get started with the episode.